Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Keeping It Real show. I'm your host, Keeping It Real, and this is my reality check for you. Hey, all right. Today we're going to be talking about the Boston Marathon bombing and everything that's going on with it. And in case you're not paying attention, yeah, that's right. 2 bombs went off at the Boston Marathon just the other day, on Patriots Day, of course. But the Boston Marathon is one of the largest foot races, and it was heavily crowded. Lots of people were at the finish line, and one bomb went off at the finish line, and one bomb went off about 100 feet from the finish line. 2 separate bombs, about 10 seconds apart, and it appears, according to the mainstream news and FBI reports, that both bombs were pressure cooker bombs, IEDs, improvised explosive devices. Basically, somebody took a pressure cooker, popped the handle off, filled it with like gunpowder, some type of explosive, threw in a bunch of nails and steelies, metal ball bearings, and rigged them with a remote detonator, and that you could set off with a cell phone, and planted these about 15 feet from the finish line and about 100 feet down from the finish line. They were about 10 seconds apart, like I said, and a couple hundred people were hurt and injured by the bomb blast, and 3 people died. I imagine those people were right there at the bombs. One of them was a little boy, 8 years old, that apparently was extremely close to the bomb at the finish line, and he died almost instantaneously. And the other were 2 women, a university student, and I can't remember the other one's name right off the top of my head. But needless to say, 3 people died during the blast, and hundreds of people were injured, severely injured. We're talking people with parts of their legs blown off, femurs exposed, that kind of thing. A lot of, bad injuries involved on Patriots Day at the Boston Marathon. And so now, right off the bat, of course, we're going to be looking for suspects. Not just the authorities look for suspects these days, guys. We rely on just the authorities to find them. In some cases, it might take forever, but there are people out there, such as myself, and there's about 20, 30, 40 million of us out here, just in America alone, that are independent investigators that like to do our own research and our own investigations in a wide variety of things. And this marathon bombing just happens to be one of them, since it's affected all of us. It's continuously on the news, has been for the last 3 days, and well, let's get into it. As far as suspects are concerned, the media reported the police didn't have any suspects right off the get. They really didn't know who was responsible for the bomb blast. Initially, most of the news networks and commentaries and anchor people were pointing towards the bombings being the act of constitutionalists, patriots, anti-tax people, because it did occur on April 15th, Tax Day, which is also known as Patriots Day. What's the irony in that? Anyways, so a whole lot of the media was pointing that it was more likely to be some constitutional or anti-government type that was responsible for these bombings in the first place. And I am a constitutionalist. I believe in my Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. And without those 3 documents, there would be no United States. I believe that wholeheartedly with my heart and soul. That doesn't mean that I would go out and target, innocent individuals and anyone that is like myself. I do wholeheartedly believe, because most of us are Christians and believe in God, that we would not, or anyone would not, go out and target innocent peoples. If there are some extreme constitutionalists out there, I would even label them wackos. I don't think that even they would go out and bomb innocent peoples. I think they would probably be more likely to attack federal buildings and things like that. Something on the line of Timothy McVeigh. Anyways, so the media is pointing their fingers at, anti-government types and constitutionalists and right-wingers and, white supremacists as well. And as possible people who carried out this attack, labeling as potential domestic terrorist attack. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. That does a little bit. But you have to look at the construction of the bomb first. It was an IED, for one, and IEDs, these particular IEDs, pressure cooker bombs, are renowned being used in the Middle East by Muslim extremists, for one. And with that, a little bit of knowledge, you're allowed to do a little bit of research. Now, I'm not the only one, but there were, like I said, tens of millions of us people out there researching and trying to find out who blew up these bombs, and killed a lot of people. It turns out that Anonymous has a branch of Anonymous that is called 4chan. And 4chan actually posted some pictures online of what they believed were possible suspects. Anonymous is a huge organization made up of anonymous people who they're hackers, and they're believed to be hackers that do good hacking instead of black hacking. Anyways, they released these pictures of what they believe to be possible suspects, and these pictures were evaluated by not only myself, but like I said, tens of millions of other conspiracy theorists and independent researchers out there. And it seems pretty likely that the individuals in the photographs that they posted were likely to be the suspects, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, there are several people involved in these photographs that should be noted. The first two suspects, I do know their names, but I can't pronounce them, so I'm not even going to try. I think they're irrelevant at this point, since the whole thing has changed. I do want to say that, two Middle Eastern men, we'll call them the man in black with the white hat, and Mr. Blue, and Mr. Frumpy, who I call the white American male, kind of a frumpy, dope addict looking kind of guy. And then surprisingly, we have some mystery characters in this that kind of surprised most of us, was the presence of private contractors that belong to a company called Craft International, which is a private security company made up of special forces, SEALs, and that kind of thing, Rangers and stuff that have excelled, left the military, and joined up with companies like Kraft and Blackwater, and they get paid about $150,000 a year to do the bidding of whoever hires their company for the job, whatever that job might be. Needless to say, there initially were just two of these private security employees from Craft International there, and they were identified as being part of Craft International by one of them was wearing a ball cap with a Punisher skull with a number 3 on it, which is the symbol of Craft International, and it is their logo. Plus, most private contracting mercenaries are pretty standard in what they wear. They like to wear the tan BDUs pants and the tan, desert-colored combat boots and whatever they carry for shirts. But usually there's some kind of identifying mark because they're proud of who they work for. Blackwater T-shirts, Craft International shirts or hats or whatever. But they almost always do that. They're usually the strong, handsome, resilient type of guys, that are definitely paying attention. Anyway, that's why these guys stood out, because they were wearing what they were wearing. But they were also carrying the same thing that the other 3 suspects, the 2 Muslims and the white guy Mr. Frumpy was carrying, and that's backpacks. Heavy, weighted down backpacks. Now, I'm not saying that the SEALs or these special force guys who were private contractors were carrying bombs, but they may have been. I'm not saying they weren't either. What I am saying is that their mere presence at the Boston Marathon is bad in any scenario, because it indicates that the city or the state or the federal government, whoever hired Craft International to be there, did it for a reason. There was already thousands of police officers on site since the Boston Marathon. It was a huge event with lots of people. They felt the need to have these special force types there. Right off the bat, that violates posse comitatus, which basically states that military can't act in any kind of policing role. Now, many private contractors like Kraft and Blackwater like to hire out to, like, let's say, the DEA, and they'll make arrests and kick in doors and not do that kind of thing, which is in direct violation of posse comitatus. So the mere presence of them being there is wrong in the first place. I could go on bitching and bitching about them, but I'm not. What I'm going to do is try to, keep my head or my eyes and mind on the ball here. What I'm trying to get across to you is basically updating you. So what we have are, the two, Muslim guys, Man in Black and Mr. Blue, and the white guy, Mr. Frumpy, and what has now turned out to be a team of Kraft International security specialists, if that's what you want to call them, but they are mercenaries. So they're on site, and it also turns out that one of these special force types was carrying a radiological detector, which detects radiations, i.e. a dirty bomb. So, and it gets even more interesting since we have witnesses that say that there was announcements being made on the PA near the end of the race, right before the blast, that this is just a drill, do not panic, this is just a drill, referring to the bomb-sniffing dogs, the spotters on the roofs, and that we're looking for something or someone. So the evidence is starting to really seriously point to the fact that there was prior knowledge of some form of attack, or they were using, like they have in the past, the presence of a drill to cover up the enactment of a terrorist attack. Needless to say, these guys, the Special Force guys, were there. The Man in Black and the Man in Blue and Mr. Frumpy were all about 20 to 30 feet from each other at the finish line at one point. And that's interesting. If you look at the videos, and I mean not the videos, but the still images of everything I'm talking about here, the Special Forces guys are looking at the bomb blast, the future bomb blast site, which is exactly where Middle Eastern guy number 1 and 2, Mr. Man in Black, and and Man in Blue, and Mr. Frumpy were standing. So they're looking right over there. They got their radiological detection equipment out, and they're expecting something to happen. Bomb blast number 1 goes off. Let me back up there. This is before the bomb blast. More of these pictures show that Middle Eastern guy, both Man in Black and Mr. Blue and Mr. Frumpy, started walking down the crowded sidewalk. And at about halfway down the sidewalk, there's a picture where it shows that Man in Black, the man with the cap, white cap, had somehow lost his backpack. There's pictures of this, guys. So he had a heavy backpack that looks like it had a pressure cooker bomb in it, almost to bomb blast number 2, and he does. Mr. Frumpy is still in the crowd. He's still got his bag, which identically matches the bomb on bomb blast number 1, and Man in Blue still has his bag. Now that's about the extent of the pictures, guys. It's a series of pictures that you really got to look at. You kind of got to analyze to see it, but it's there. It's plain and simple. So, needless to say, the internet became saturated with these images because we conspiracy theorists put them out there. And at this point, local authorities, the Boston Police Department, said that they did have a suspect in custody. This is prior to us announcing all these images of these suspects. And they had a man in custody. And then all of a sudden, they changed their story once these images hit the internet, that they no longer had a suspect in custody. So they did. They let him go. And now they got to start formulating a new story. And it took them actually a day. And once the police department, Boston Police Department, said they no longer had it, or they never had a suspect in custody, and that there wasn't a bomb drill going on, even though there's PAs to it that announce, this is, just a drill, do not panic. And there's bomb-sniffing dogs and special forces on the ground. Boston Police Department said that there was never a bomb drill going on, and that they never had anybody in custody. But the FBI at this point pipes in and says, hey, you know what? We have 2 suspects, and we have pictures of them carrying their bags, and we have video of them placing the bag. And but we're not going to show you the pictures. And that's what they did for 24 hours. So at this point, they're formulating their new story as to what's going to be the bad guys in this terrible event that happened in Boston. And it seems to be an extremely fluid thing. It's still going on right behind me. In fact, I'm missing what's going on. But I'm going to get you where we're at, hopefully sooner than later. Anyways, the FBI eventually, after 24 hours of announcing that they had video and pictures of their suspects, it's 2 totally different guys. One guy's like 24, one of the other guy's 19. They appear at first to be Americans, not Middle Eastern, and not frumpy, overweight white Americans, kind of youthful and in shape guys carrying, backpacks. One's kind of a white and black one, and one's a black one. And that's all you do is you see pictures and a very short video clip of them walking around with their backpacks. At no point is there any video of them without their backpacks. At no point are they showing them actually sitting the bags down and walking away. Yet we conspiracy theorists found our first 2 suspects, Man in Black and Mr. Blue, who Man in Black lost his bag, or it had it at bomb blast site number 1, but by the time he got to bomb blast site number 2, it was gone. So I still think there's something to that, but for some reason the FBI and the media is now jumping all over these 2 suspects, and it's actually accelerated way beyond that, folks, because at 10:30 last night, just like 6 hours or 8 hours after releasing the pictures, apparently these 2 suspects, of the FBI suspects, strapped bombs to their chest, robbed a 7-Eleven, hijacked a car, were in police pursuit, throwing explosives at the police, which ended in one of the older of the 2 FBI suspects getting shot, which actually detonated one of the bomb vests that he had on, and killing him or seriously wounding him to the point that 5 to 10 minutes later, he died en route to the hospital while CPR was being done to him. I'll tell you what, man, if a body is blown apart and there's like huge body parts missing, you don't perform CPR, okay? You're pumping all the blood out of them, for one thing. So I'm not really buying that one either. But this was late last night. Now we're into 1 o'clock in the morning, and the older of the 2 FBI suspects is now dead. The younger one, 19, is now armed with a gun with a possible bomb vest, loose in Boston, being pursued by police. Or at least they're trying to find him now because he got away from the shootout. And now he's out running around Boston. The entire city of Boston is in complete and utter lockdown. We conspiracy theorists call that a police state. When you have thousands of police officers and military personnel going door to door without warrants, searching homes for one 19-year-old, possibly armed with a gun, possibly armed with a bomb vest. No proof to that at all, because I've seen pictures of the body of suspect number 1, the older one, on the ground. They show video of him on the ground after he was shot. And he sure doesn't look like he was blown apart. His body was intact. Anyways, so now the entire city of Boston is a complete lockdown. The authorities have said, stay in your house, lock your doors, do not go outside. If you do go outside, you will be arrested. So it is a lockdown. It's a police state in Boston, and it turns out there's a couple other cities that even stretch off into Connecticut. They're in the same state of lockdown. This is martial law, basically, folks. And that's currently where we're at now. FBI suspect. Number 2, the younger one, 19, supposedly armed with a pistol, is now running around Boston, and everybody's privacy is being invaded because they're looking for this one kid that may be a suspect, that may not be a suspect. But there's more information to this. It just gets crazier and crazier, guys. Remember everything I've said. Okay, I want to reiterate. You got a team of 7 special forces that are employed by Kraft International private security mercenaries on site prior to the blast, at the finish line, staring at the spot where my suspects and all the other conspiracy suspects, 1 and 2, Man in Black and Man in Blue, and Mr. Frumpy are at. They're all looking at him. Then you've got these 2 other guys who are, one's dead now, and the other one is causing the entire city of Boston and surrounding cities to be in complete, utter lockdown. That appear to be these 2 suspects, now dead, but one dead, and the other one's probably likely soon to be dead, are apparently, according to the news, from Chechnya, Russia, which is not really Russia, but Chechnya, the south of Russia, which is a highly Islamic Muslim community where it's, just a war ground in itself. And they're saying that these boys, because that's what they are, they're under 24 and younger to 19. These boys are highly trained military terrorists that have been here for a year, even though they have so-called military connections, and they've been giving a visa on September 11th. There's just some weird shit going on, guys. I mean, I'm an avid researcher. I've been one for 30 years, and this is so fluid, it's impossible to keep up. But there are some very strange things going on. What can I say is going on? I think this is going to end up with people getting used to having military on the streets. Tanks, Men in Black, AR-15s, knocking on your door, warrant, no warrant, coming in and doing what they want to do. And I think that's probably how this is going to end up, because it appears that the whole world is terrified of these 2 individuals. And I think it's totally distracting because we're forgetting the larger scope of things. It appears that there was a much bigger operation going, and I can't even understand what that was. But there was a much bigger operation going on at the Boston Marathon than just 2 young kids with pressure cooker bombs that they looked up on the internet and decided to kill a couple hundred people or wound a couple hundred people and kill, some people with. I think there's a lot bigger thing behind this. We're going to have to pay attention to this closely, guys, because a lot of this doesn't make sense. I mean, the fact that the pressure cooker bombs that were packed with nails and steelies and stuff exploded, yet they found shells, the shell of the pressure cooker on the ground with pieces of the black backpack on it. But when the bomb blew up and threw these nails and steelies out through the container, they didn't punch any holes in it, and that's kind of odd. That would be an indication of a shaped charge that a large portion of this bomb was unaffected except for being blown off, but no steelies or nails went through it, which is kind of weird. It almost seems that these bombs were created by somebody who knew what they were doing when they made these bombs, not just Googling something on the internet. So it's an extremely fluid. Oh, they got a helicopter in the air. I wish I knew what was going on, but I'm making this video. Anyways, there's a whole lot going on, guys, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. All I'm saying is I'm doing my best, and so are the other conspiracy theorists and independent researchers out there trying to get to the truth of the matter, because there was a drill going on. That's a fact. There was 7 special forces types who work for Kraft International there before the bomb blast. There were 2 Middle Eastern men, one of them who ended up missing his pack, losing his pack, or placing his pack somewhere, and a frumpy guy carrying a pack that matches identically the bomb the bag that carried the bomb at bomb site 1, which was the finish line. And now you got these two Chechnyan guys. One's dead, and the other one is on the loose, being hunted by, a couple thousand police force and military people, military police now on the streets of Boston. So it's a very interesting thing. The last few days have been very interesting, guys, and I think that the only thing that is sure to come of this is that your right to privacy and to be secure in your person and freedom of travel is definitely, no doubt, going to be affected. I think the presence of likely military force or even private contractors on the streets of America is likely. I think TSA is going to be ramped up even more so. And I think the Department of Homeland Security and its 2,717 MRAPs, which were deployed just hours after the bomb blast at the Boston Marathon, and the 2 billion rounds of ammunition that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased over the last year, and the guns to go with it, are all going to be a reality to all of us pretty soon. On what level, to what degree, I can't say. I really don't. I don't understand why the Department of Homeland Security needs 2,717 MRAPs. I don't understand why they need 2 billion rounds of ammunition. I really don't understand why they need any of that. The Department of Homeland Security, they got enough ammo there to kill each and every man, woman, and child in America 5 times over. So I think it's likely, in my honest opinion, I'm 26 minutes into this, and I know it's kind of, drawn out, but I'd like to close it up in 4 minutes, so I'm going to summarize. By the end of all this, the police and the military are going to be on the streets of America, and it's going to be a daily thing. By the end of this, your right to be able to walk down the street without being searched, that's gone. That's done away with. That's what I think is going to happen here. And I think that the American people are going to give up their rights to be free in a free country, to be more secure, no matter if the fear of terrorism is a false flag event or not, whether it was the private security team, Kraft International, or Blackwater, or whoever they were. I'm pretty sure it was Kraft International. Was hired to make sure that these guys blew up their bombs and that some kind of plan worked out. I mean, no matter how you look at it, guys, this is not going to be good for the American people and our ideals of freedom. They're gone in Boston today. There is no such thing as the Constitution in Boston today. There is no such thing as the Bill of Rights and the rule of law and due process in Boston and Connecticut today. So will this continue? Will it escalate? Who knows? We still have to worry about the giant fertilizer plant explosion in Texas. The first calls for that through 911 was, hey, a bomb blast went off. We need to get out of here. That was played all over mainstream, yet the mainstream news and everybody else seems to have forgotten that. Yet it's played on the news today, not too long ago. I heard it on the news. A bomb went off. Yet the media is still calling, even with that statement, that that was an industrial accident that just ruined hundreds of homes, killed people, wounded lots of people, really affected, a huge community in Texas. And we also still got the guy that sent the letters to the president and a couple of senators laced with ricin, which is a highly toxic substance. And this guy's a conspiracy theorist. Openly admits it, that he's a conspiracy theorist. He has a history of sending letters to the president and senators and stuff like that. But he's never really sent one with ricin in it or a highly toxic thing. So it's official that this guy who, quote unquote, says those who see evil and do nothing to expose it are just as guilty as those doing the evil. That's a conspiracy theorist, folks. His conspiracy theory was that the hospital he was working at was selling dead body parts. It might sound crazy to you. But tell you what, it goes on in China. It happens all the time, man. China takes body parts from their inmates and sell them to people who's willing to buy them. Why couldn't that happen to a head of a hospital that is greedy? You think just because we're America, it's not possible? You guys need to wake the fuck up, man. It's a crazy world out there, and it's about to get a lot crazier. Now, I might sound like a fruitcake to you. I might not. It doesn't matter, man. And I might be wrong on some and right on some, and I might be completely wrong on all of it. Not likely. But in your world, I will be. So if you can accept reality for whatever it is, man, but the world is constantly changing in front of us right now to a place that I don't care to live in anymore. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not going to go out and kill people, or I'm not going to go out and do this or bomb people or innocent people. The only thing that Mike is going to do is to get the word out. I seek the truth, and I'll share the truth, whatever I see that my research deems to be the truth. And then you take that information and come to your own conclusions. That's really it, guys. But pay attention to what's going on in the news. Stay the fuck off the soap operas. Get the hell out of the reality shows. Turn off the fucking Xbox and pay attention. Because if you don't, you're going to wake up where you didn't want to wake up. And that's in a camp, in the family internment center that has been built. 2,000 of them across the country, folks. So pay attention. I'm not kidding. I'm not looking the wrong way. I'm not kidding, folks. Pay attention. Anyways, this is Keeping It Real. This is my 31-minute rant about what's going on in Boston. I really don't care what you think. I'm not crazy. I'm not a lunatic. I'm not this. I'm just a guy trying to get the truth out. So keep your mind open, man. And as always, keep it real. Peace.